joined now by a man who helped the Twins win a pair of World Series championships in 1987 and 91, the latter with a nearly unthinkable .382 batting average off the bench for Tom Kelly's Twins, and currently serves as the assistant general manager for the Chicago Cubs, Randy Bush. Randy, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Landon. Thanks for that intro. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. You know, even 27 years on, it remains the best slide I've ever seen. Your mad dash toward the dish that eluded Tony Peña's tag in the 1987 World Series. You dove wide of the plate. You had your arm tucked away from the Cardinals catcher. You extended it back out to get to the back end of the plate and then pulled it right back. Do you have any memories of that particular play, or was it a blur then and it's a blur now?
Oh, I have wonderful memories of it, and it's always nice to be reminded of it, first of all, and it kind of takes you back in time. It was one of those reactionary things where you know where you're trying to get to, and you see that there's an obstacle in the way, and you kind of react and figure out a way to get there. And I really didn't know at the time how special it kind of appeared, because it was captured in a really unique way by the obviously tons of photographers that were there. So I got some great pictures of it and great memories of it, and it's a fun thing to think back on.
We talked a little bit about it in the intro there with your pinch hitting performance in 1991. You had a slash line of .382, .500, .618 as a pinch hitter that year. 43 plate appearances, came up with 13 hits, 2 of them home runs. You drove in 8, walked 8 times. Oftentimes you were batting in crucial moments in those games, late in games. It's hard for anyone to go 13 for 34 over any stretch, let alone in spots in game-dictating moments. As someone who thrived in that role, can you explain a little bit to our listeners, how difficult it is to be successful in that role?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult because, as you said, usually you're facing one of the top pitchers on the opposing club, and if not the closer. And so, you get a brief look at them. You've got one opportunity, and there's a clear-cut winner or loser usually in that at bat. And it's a great challenge. I do think that one of the things that's helpful is experience. And at that point in my career, I had pretty good amount of major league time, and that helped. And it's one of the things we talk about a lot as we try to build a bench and build a ball club, and what type of player can be successful in that role. And I do think that experience is probably the number one criterion to giving you a chance, because otherwise it just seems to speed up too much on you, and guys have a tendency to get themselves out more than making that guy out there get you out.
You talked about it a little bit there with experience. How much of what you learned and observed being around Twins manager Tom Kelly and general manager Andy MacPhail has influenced you and your strategies for building an organization top to bottom?
Oh, everything. I mean, I think we're all a product of our experiences, and I had wonderful experiences there in Minnesota and got to witness firsthand obviously some down years, but then what it was like to build up and accomplish the ultimate and win the World Series. And so both of those people that you mentioned, Tom Kelly and Andy MacPhail, were wonderful mentors and big parts of my life. And so much of what I've done since then and the lessons that I carried from them are a direct result of things that I learned from watching them day to day.
Now Theo Epstein's been in Chicago for a few years. You've been working with him here. With the success he'd had in Boston coming into Chicago, has the pressure and expectation from the fans and the media waned at all on that? Is it the same, or has it intensified in terms of when the Cubs are going to turn things around and become contenders again?
Well, I don't think it's waned at all. We got this 100-year drought hanging over us, and we get reminded of that an awful lot. And everybody here in the office on a day-to-day basis feels the urgency to build a club that's not just a playoff contender for 1 year, but you want to have a ball club that's capable of going to the playoffs year after year. And if you do that, then that's really the formula for having a club that will ultimately win the World Series is just to get there year after year. So we're working hard to do that, and I can tell you that everybody here is motivated every day to accomplish that.
A few years back, I remember hearing front office folks from Kansas City continue to say 2014, that was the year they expected the organization to become a contender in the American League Central. How close are some of the Chicago's top prospects? And then have you guys, Mr. Epstein, yourself, ownership, determined any kind of a timetable where this is the expectation we think by this year we should be right there in the NL Central?
Well, there's not a timetable, and you can't really define when your prospects are going to be ready. You kind of have to watch them and give them the resources they need and let them show you when they're ready by the way that they play. But that being said, we've got Javier Baez, who's probably the furthest along, and he's playing shortstop in Iowa, and he got off to a horrendous start there this year and was just named the PCL Player of the Week last week and has really started to come on of late. So, we're excited about him and his progress, but when will he be ready? When will we say, okay, offensively, defensively, he's ready? That's hard to say. Bryant is tearing up the Southern League, our number one pick last year. And again, another example, you just have to let these guys play, and you don't want to have them come up and not be ready. In a perfect world, you'd have guys come up and never see another day in the minor leagues. Unfortunately, that usually doesn't happen. Usually guys come up, they fail for a period of time in the big leagues, they go back down, and then they come up again. So it's a difficult process, and we're trying to be patient with those guys. And again, you have a fan base that's starving for a winner and starving for some continued success, and all of that factors in, but you can't let that make you make short-term decisions that don't fit the long-term development of your players.
Of course, as an organization, the Cubs will always consider all avenues, analyze players individually. But with the success that the crosstown rival White Sox have had after inking Jose Abreu, to go along with the accomplishments of other recent Cuban-defected players like Aroldis Chapman, you got Cespedes, Yasiel Puig, you got Masahiro Tanaka with the Yankees, have such impact players from Cuba and Japan over the past handful of seasons at all altered or intensified the way the Cubs assess the free agency and posting prices for Cuban and Japanese players?
Well, I don't think it's altered the way that we look at it. And the White Sox did a great job with Abreu and the Yankees with Tanaka, and I think, in every case, we've examined what our options are with those players and what it would take to be involved and what it would take to ultimately sign them. In fact, we have a high-profile Cuban player, George Soler, in our minor league system who's had some trouble with some hamstring issues of late, but is a guy that we're very excited about. So, you look at all markets and all different ways to acquire talent, and I think it would be very short-sighted to just say, well, we're not going to participate in that market, or we'd like to think that we're going to participate in all markets and expend the resources necessary when we find the right players to pursue. Those guys have done a great job signing those players, and I think, as I said, in every case, we've been in the market and looking to acquire talent ourselves.
A few years back, I spoke with Gary Gaetti, your former Twins teammate, and asked him what would happen if Chicago won the World Series, the Cubs, and he said they'd tear the city down. Is he about spot on with that assertion?
Well, I hope not. I hope he's not spot on that they'll tear the city down, but it will be a wonderful day for the city of Chicago and a celebration probably that may not have been seen anywhere else. So I hope it'll be a safe celebration, and I hope it's something that I can be a part of in some small way. I think that's a great motivator for all of us, is to think that when that day comes, that you could be a part of it and how special that would be. Hey, I was a part of a pretty special one in 1987 with the Twins when that was the first time that the Twins had won the World Series.
Right.
And that was certainly a huge day in the city, and again, something that I look back on and think, wow, what would that be like to be able to go through that again in the city of Chicago?
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. I mean, you won the pair of championships with the Twins as a player. Of course, like you said, 87, the Twins had never won a World Series. Now, being the assistant general manager for the Cubs, just from an intellectual standpoint, what do you think it would have more significance to you in helping build the Cubs and overcome a 100-plus year drought of a World Series championship as opposed to those ones you earned as a player?
Well, I don't think it would have more significance, no, but I think it would be equally significant, and something that I think to experience something as a player is incredibly special and unique, and obviously that not many people can be a part of, and so that's always going to be a very, very special memory for me. And I just think that the opportunity now to be in the Cubs front office and having been here and lived in Chicago now for a while, and to see what great fans we have here, and very similar to Minnesota, and just to see what it would mean to how often you hear people talk about how they're lifelong Cubs fans and what it would mean to them. It's a great motivator, and it'll be a special thing when we get that done. And like I said, I don't know that I could put one experience over the other. That sure would be pretty special to experience them both.
Mm-hmm. All right, Randy Bush, Assistant General Manager for the Chicago Cubs, two-time World Series winning player for the Minnesota Twins. Thanks for taking a few minutes to chat with us. We appreciate it.
Hey, Landon, my pleasure. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Okay.